Welcome back everybody. Today we're going over this pistol that you see in my hands right here. This is the Canik TP9 SFL. So for those that haven't been following sort of the history and the evolution of the Canik pistol line, the SF came in probably about 2 years ago, and it had a really nice trigger, no decocker, which people really liked, and the grip that you see right here. So a very ergonomic grip in terms of that. And they expanded that over into the SFX, which had the optics ready version and some fiber optic sights, extended controls, and some other stuff that was really sort of geared towards the competitive shooter. And now this one here adds the additional length here in the barrel in the slide, but doesn't have the extended controls, doesn't have the optics mount, and comes in at a little bit of a lower price point. So basically what we're going to do today is a little bit more shooting. We'll let the dogs take a look at it, get into the details of this particular offering from Canik, and then at the end we'll sort of let you know how it performed and what I think of it overall. Getting into the details of the gun, we'll start here on the bottom and sort of work our way up. It comes with two 18-round mags. You see here, they are made by MechGuard. Actually says so right there on the front. And this pistol also accepts the 20-round SFX mags. So if you guys are searching for mags out there, aftermarket ones, it will work with either one. So if you need that extra 2 rounds, it's an option for you. As you'll note there, it is cut for ambidextrous mag release. However, the mag release on this pistol is not ambidextrous, but it is reversible. So for those of you that are left-handed and want to swap it over here to the right side of the pistol, you are able to do so. So the grip of the pistol, very ergonomic, has this good texturing on here, and then on the back strap as well as the front strap we have the little texture squares there that you see. It's very similar to the Gen 4 Glocks. If you guys have felt that, that's similar in how it feels texture wise. The back strap here is replaceable, so you can it comes with the medium one rather, and you can add either a smaller one or a larger one. This one here is the larger size one. That's typically what I put on there because I do have relatively large hands. It just fits well in my hand, but all in all, the grip definitely ergonomic for most folks. The slide lock is relatively low profile on this gun, like most of the Canik pistols out there. It has some texturing on there, and it also sort of sticks out a little bit when you have it in the rear position like that. So you do have somewhat of a ledge if you need to come up and hit that to drive the slide home. But even with the high thumb grip that I typically do use, I don't ever inadvertently bump it like I do with, say, a factory extended Glock one on like a Glock 34 or something like that. So I do like that overall. Moving forward, we have these little texture pads here on the right side. There's only one, and then it says made in Turkey, which we'll get to a little bit later on in the review. Continuing to move forward, we do have a 1913 accessory rail here, so any of your standard lights, lasers, anything like that will fit on the pistol without any type of modification. The trigger guard that you guys see here is squared off. It also has the serrations up front for those of you guys that like to put your finger there. I don't personally do that, but I know some folks like it. There's plenty of room in there for gloves if you guys are shooting in the winter or just wearing like tactical type gloves. It's not going to be an issue at all. Trigger pull on this pistol is excellent. That's one thing that many of the Canik pistols are known for, and this one is no exception. We do have the little trigger safety there, and then you're going to have a little bit of slop. Once you hit that wall though, it is super crisp. This one here breaks right at 4.5 pounds on my scale, and the reset's very good and very audible as well. You guys can see it's short, and then you just get right back on it. Nice crisp break. Really, the Caniks do have some of the better polymer striker fired triggers out there, period. That little red button on the rear there is indicating that the striker is pre-cocked, and at this point if you pull the trigger you'll see it go home, and that striker would hit the round and cause it to fire. Of course, under the normal cycling operation of the pistol, it would come back as soon as the next round went into the chamber, but just wanted to explain that little indicator there on the rear for folks that didn't know what it was or haven't seen it yet. Now the slide of the pistol does have a Cerakote finish, and one thing that I've gotten comments over the years about Canik pistols In the past, people will say that their finishes are wearing. Well, that's absolutely true. If you use a Cerakote finished gun, a good bit it will wear. You guys can see we're starting to get some wear marks up there on the edges on both sides here. But underneath that Cerakote, it is nitrided, so that way you're going to have good corrosion resistance, good surface hardness, and all the other properties that come with a nitrided finish. But what you actually see, the black finish here, is Cerakote, and it will wear with use. So just keep that in mind, because Cerakote is just a paint. The rear of the slide here, we have serrations on both sides. They're very easy to grab, very tactile, but they're not going to cut into you like some do. Up front, we do have usable front serrations, so that way if you want to do press checks, if you're one of those guys, you certainly can do so. We do have holes in the slide cut here, however, it is not a ported barrel. That's just to lighten the slide up, because obviously this one's a little bit longer. So in order to get the timing right with it, they had to lighten the slide up with those holes. Some folks like it, some folks don't. It is a point of ingress, certainly for materials. You know, if you were to throw it in mud, let's say, a little bit more would get in there, that's for sure. But for normal operation, I don't really see it being an issue. Glock 34s, for instance, have had similar holes for years, and they're very, very reliable guns, as this one has been mostly to date. So if you look on top of the slide, you'll also see that we do have serrations cut in there to cut down on glare. I've said it in many videos, I've never actually seen glare be a big deal with pistols, but it certainly doesn't hurt anything. The sights the pistol comes with are the Warren tactical sights. They're good sights overall for sure. It's got a plain black rear and a little white dot front. And for factory sights, they're all metal. There's nothing to complain about. However, these ones here are the True Glows, and definitely a step up in my opinion. We have the two tritium inserts there on the rear with the serrations. Has a nice hooked edge there for one-handed manipulations. And then up front we have the, of course, tritium insert with the white around there. It's really going to draw your eye to it. And one thing that's nice about Canik pistols over the years is that they become, of course, more popular. And when pistols become more popular, accessories start to get made for them. And this one here's no exception in that regard. Disassembly of the pistol is pretty straightforward stuff, but if you're new to it, we'll go over it real quick. You're going to want to make sure the pistol is clear, of course. This one is. There's no magazine, and we'll let the slide go home. At this point, you're going to point the pistol in a safe direction, pull the trigger. You'll see, again, that little striker indicator will be home. At this point, you're going to pull back about 1/8 of an inch on the slide, pull down on this tab right here. There's an identical one on the right side of the pistol, and your slide will come off like so. We do have a metal guide rod and spring. That's certainly something I know some folks like. The barrels on these pistols are cold hammer forged, and this one here, of course, has the extra length to it. Again, you can see some wear on there. That's just good, honest use. But the Caniks are known to be very accurate pistols. Again, this one's no exception. I didn't bench this one, but I've shot this one out to 50 yards and able to get consistent hits. There's actually a video on YouTube of a guy shooting this at 250 yards and getting hits, which certainly better than I can do. I can tell you that much. But if you look on the inside of the slide there, this one probably needs to be cleaned a little better than I did, but you'll note that it doesn't have a lot of machine marks. Everything looks pretty cleaned up, a little bit of wear up there up front, but otherwise no worse for wear, if you will. So to reassemble, we're just going to put it back together in the same way we took it apart. Put our spring in there, lock it into the lug there on the barrel, and we're going to line it up and send it home, and you're done. Earlier I brought up accessories, and this pistol does come with a holster straight out of the box. So the holster is included in the box, and as I was the first time you saw it, you guys might think this button here is on the wrong side, but that's not actually a release button like a Serpa type holster. It's actually just a retention button. So it's going to give you a slight amount of retention, but if you actually pull it with authority, it will release it. You can adjust the cant of the holster if you want to do so. You can use it as just a paddle holster like you have traditionally, but it does also have the belt loops if you want to run your belt through it. Now, again, with the aftermarket support being what it is, there's plenty of holsters for Canik pistols out there. This particular one's from Smoky Mountain Concealment, and is actually for my TP9 SFX. Some of you guys have probably seen this holster before, but it works just fine on this particular model as well, and that's what you guys probably have seen me using throughout the video. The SFL up top is the descendant of the SFX. A lot of people really like the SFX and the features that it offered, but didn't need some of the other features that it offered. Of course, this one has the optics plates, some extended controls in terms of the slide release, as well as the magazine release. I personally, again, like we talked about, don't really like the extended mag release, but certainly folks do, competitive shooters and so on. But this one does away with that and has the standard TP9 controls, but still retains the same length and overall size. Of course, you guys can see the same thing with those holes in the slide to lighten it up and make sure it cycles properly. Here we have the TP9 just to do sort of a size comparison for you guys, and you can see there in the grip it's the exact same size, but in the slide it's lightened significantly, or rather shortened significantly over the SFL. We have the XS big dot sights on there, another option for aftermarket sights. Those of course will work on the SFL as well. For those that don't know, over on xssights.com you guys can use the code Mr. Guns and Gear and get 10% off. I should also point out while I have it here that we have some Cerakote wear, just like I talked about earlier. So, and then the last one I want to show you in the Canik lineup is size-wise is their Elite. Something I should mention as well, since I did this review for the Elite, is that folks were complaining that they were having some weak ejection out of the Elites, and Canik has now released a separate spring for the U.S. market, because the guns are designed around NATO spec ammo, and this one here was having some issues with some of the weaker 9mm loads here and limb bursting. They put out a new spring for it for anybody looking for that, if you guys didn't know that. But you guys can see the Elite there is smaller. It's more sort of Glock 19 sized. It's got a smaller grip. It also has a smaller slide, a shorter slide, but width-wise, it's pretty much the same. And then to compare it to some guns that you guys might be a little bit more familiar with, here's our Glock 17. Again, it's going to be longer there in the slide than the 17 would, more akin to the 34, which we just happen to have right here. So we'll show you guys how that stacks up there. Again, line up the backs of the slides. You guys can see they're pretty much identical in terms of length, and in the grip, same as well. A couple things to touch on before we close the video out. So reliability wise, this one has about 600 rounds through at this point, so not a ton, but enough to see, you know, if it's going to have any major issues, and I would say it doesn't. We had one malfunction out of it in total, and that was with Minuteman Munitions 115 grain. That's the ammo that we put the vast majority of rounds through with this pistol, and we also ran some Federal HSTs 124 grain, and also some Spirit Gold Dot 147 grains, and had zero issues with those. So it eats hollow points just fine, as you guys would expect from one of their pistols. So MSRP on this gun, I think, is $499 if I remember correctly. I looked around today, found it for $422. So for the price point, I think you're getting a pretty good option overall. The performance has been good, sans that one malfunction. But you know, guns do malfunction, even Glocks. I've showed it videos before, guys. But I do like the long slide. A lot of people will say that they really like the sight radius. I personally, in terms of shooting and accuracy, don't really notice a huge difference with long slides. But one thing I do like about it is you get some extra velocity out of it, and there's really no penalty for it. So what I mean by that is, say you had the Canik TP9 that we showed earlier. A lot of people think that with 9mm they have to have plus P ammo to get the type of terminal performance that they want out of a gun. And that's really for another video in terms of the ballistic argument there. However, one thing you get when you get these longer slides is that you generally get about 50 feet per second with most 9mm loads, more than say like a 4 or 4.25 inch barrel, which is exactly the difference between most of the plus P loads and non-plus P loads. So you're basically getting that plus P performance with very little additional length added to it, and I really think that's certainly a good thing, and you can't complain about it, because more velocity out of most 9mm loads is generally speaking going to be a good thing, and you're not having to pay that recoil penalty that you would have with the plus P round. So that's certainly a benefit to it as well. One thing I know people are always going to talk about with these guns is that they're made in Turkey, and Turkey right now is run by a man who's not exactly super friendly to the United States. That's absolutely true. However, outside of pro-Second Amendment type stuff, I really tend to stay out of politics here on the channel. You know, people don't say, you know, HK guns and Glocks and stuff like that are owned by like Nazi companies. So a lot of countries out there have done a lot of shady stuff. Right now, Turkey's doing shady stuff, and I'm sure in the future other countries will do shady stuff. It is what it is, and that's up to you guys as the informed consumer to make your decision there. So all in all, though, it's been a good gun. I've been very happy with the Canik line of pistols. I think they do bring a lot of value for the money. This one here is no exception to that. And if you guys have any questions about the guns, you can always post down below in the comment section. You can also post those questions over at my Facebook page, as always. That's generally speaking the best way to get in touch with me. Tend to see them more there than I do here on YouTube or Full30 or anywhere else you guys might be watching this video. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you aren't subscribed yet, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see all of you in the next video.